All right, so we're going to transition over to Ron Woerner. Did I say that? Like I've seen him online forever, but did I pronounce it Woerner? Is that the right way to do it?
Yes, you did.
All right, great, nice. Yeah, I'm like batting like 20% on proper name pronunciations here. So,
Anything
uh,
close works, just don't call me late for dinner or anything too naughty.
exactly. So Ron is he's actually part of the VetSec community, and this has been my favorite part of VetSecCon is seeing all the presenters sourced from the community because it's cool to see what everyone's up to, and
Mhm.
also it's great, especially everyone from like their newbies to getting their first con presentation to people like Ron who've been around and for not for a while, not in a bad way, but they know their
You're
stuff.
saying I'm old. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, we got very, very old guys like Ron who really know their stuff and they're taking the time to talk to all of us, which is super cool. So, Ron, you're the co-host, so if you have anything to share, like slides or whatnot, feel free to do it. Which you've just started, great, and take it away. And then after Ron, we have the lunch break. So this is our the last stop, and then before the break. And thank you, Ron. Go ahead.
My pleasure. Yes, we have some fantastic talent as a part of VetSec, and it's great to see folks stepping up and not only presenting, but participating in these types of talks. So let's dive right in as I talk about one of my favorite topics. It's always rather exciting to talk about social engineering and this human hacking thing, and how do we go after humans? So I call it Unfluence. It's this dark side of influence. It can be used for good or for evil. How is it used for evil? So we can learn how to protect against it. And then maybe we can use some of these same techniques for the side of good. For example, there's been a lot of talks as part of VetSecCon about hacking your career. One of the top recommendations I have is learn social engineering and social engineer your next boss. I'll show you exactly how to do that coming up. These are, of course, normal caveats. These are my own thoughts. Use them at your own risk. Trust but verify. Don't believe anything I say. Confirm it with somebody else. Oh, this could be PG-13. Just giving a little bit of a warning. Hopefully everyone who's watching this over 13. I like to make these interactive. I know we may not necessarily have a whole lot of people here in the room watching me do this live, but if you watch this as a video or even listening to it, ping me with questions. Love talking with people. Put questions at almost any point. Really, I don't have too many rules for when I'm presenting. Basically, there are none. Pepper me with these questions. If I ever say a TLA or an FLA you're not familiar with, please ask what it may be. This is usually when I pause, hoping someone will say WTH is a TLA.
That's what I was thinking myself. What's a TLA and what's an FLA?
Well, we use them all the
Please.
time with the military, so thank you for asking. Three-letter acronym or four-letter acronym. So an FLA is actually a TLA. We throw out acronyms all the time. We'll actually get into that, how we get too much into our tech talk. Think about your audience, as Aaron mentioned earlier today in his presentation on how to tell stories in order to build your security budget. But think about, how is your audience perceiving what you're saying? If we're talking about SIMs and IDS and UTMs and DMARCs for email, it's probably going like alphabet soup for them. Like Jolene mentioned, Jolene in the earlier presentation, about how we can throw letters after our name to make ourselves look impressive. Maybe not. Quick slide. Who am I? Here's what I recommend you do. You have my permission. Google stalk me. Seriously. I mean, don't we do this anyway? You find someone new who may be someone interesting and connect with them. Look them up on Google, connect with them on LinkedIn. Great way to do it. So you have my permission. I teach for a university called Bellevue University, Bellevue, Nebraska. I've been teaching there for about 10 years now. I love doing it. I have students literally all over the world, many military students I've worked with. I'm prior military myself, by the way, a U.S. Air Force intelligence officer. Don't ask me what my job code was. I don't remember. It's been that long since I've been in. I'm also a US Cyber Patriot mentor. As the previous presentation was discussing, how do you gain experience if you're new in this field? Become a mentor to others. Cyber Patriot is a great way to do it. So ping me if you want to learn more about Cyber Patriot. I created my own cybersecurity company. Why? I couldn't get hired. Seriously, it was like 3 years ago. I got laid off, and so I threw my hat in the ring and, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have experience. And what? So I kind of gave up and I just started my own thing, which has actually proven to be nicely successful. So as a side gig to teaching, like so many do. This is how you can contact me. My contact information will also be at the end. Find me on the VetSec Slack as well. Why are we here? Well, first of all, the rule of a security presentation is you need to have a Dilbert cartoon and you need your hacker hoodie, right? No, just kidding. To learn about social engineering and how it can be used on the dark side. We learn how to prevent it, and then maybe we can learn how to do it. You failed the Dilbert conversation. Oh, Aaron, well, see, now you know. It could be part, but that was part, as you were asking, so I'm reading from the chat, Aaron, and I conversed earlier about humor in presentations, and I do like to use a lot of humor, but as Aaron pointed out, it's about knowing your audience. Did you know we're experiencing a national debate? It's election season, so a lot of people have this on their mind. And I'm hoping at the end of my presentation, you have a completely new view of how you're looking at the elections. Debate or screaming match could be, actually, I've seen it both. Let me tell you the subject. Pineapple on pizza. What do you think? Thumbs up. Oh, wait, this is the PG-13 slide. Okay. So yeah, do we have pineapple on pizza? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You see, some people say, I ask this in my classes. I have to separate out the pineapple pizza from the non-pineapple on pizza people. That's hard to say. Seriously, they will go at it like, Republicans and Democrats, not to be political. What does this have to do with Unfluence? Well, if you haven't gone to this website, let me switch to it. This came from the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So happy National Cybersecurity Awareness Month to everybody. This was last year they were talking about this. Switch to my browser. So if you go out to the NICS site on US CERT, and I'm just looking over at my other monitor, they talked about the Department of Homeland Security uses pineapple on pizza as a great analogy about understanding foreign influence, where they find some type of a divisive issue, like should there be pineapple on pizza or not? Mouse over. Yeah, how do they influence thought as a part of this? Well, they just get on social media. They'll create a whole lot of sock puppet accounts. A sock puppet account is just a fake account. Do any of you have sock puppet accounts on social media? I won't say whether I do or don't. Anyway, it's just kind of a fun way to have different personas on social media. Enough said. They'll go in and they'll begin to target specific individuals with these fake sock puppet accounts. And then they create a whole lot of them and they amplify. A lie said loud enough or said a lot of times is perceived as the truth. I'm going to repeat that. A lie said loud enough or reflected enough times is perceived as the truth. And that's what the foreign influence is trying to do. Because then you have the social proof. I'll talk about that in a bit. Everyone's talking about it. Well, who's the everyone? Well, come on, it's trending on Twitter. Why is it trending on Twitter? Well, because the Russians created 8,000 accounts to make it trend. Not to pick on the Russians. It could be the Chinese. It could be Iranian. It could be North Korean. All of them. And that's how they make it mainstream. And then it gets projected into the real world as the truth. So I love it. Thank you for the active chat. Yes. That's what makes this so much more fun. So that's the war on pizza and how Unfluence is being used by foreign governments. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. There we go. Where do we see this? Well, from a couple of years ago, the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center had a briefing on Russian activity. And if you don't go to their website to see their alerts, well, I highly recommend it. You should bookmark this website. This shows you all of the recent alerts. The one I showed you is from 2 years ago about Russians going after critical infrastructure, same type of way. They will social engineer their way in. They find people on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. They create rapport. They say, hey, let's be friends. They strike up just regular conversations. They'll pretend they're here in the States. Yeah, I'm Joe, I'm in Missouri, and they'll actually find places in Missouri to talk about. They'll find ways to connect with people. I'll show you how to do this here in a little bit. Here's a great resource. If you know me, I love referencing resources like this. What we are finding is that we are our own worst enemy. When it comes to all of this influence, we are all susceptible to being unfluenced. This comes from Pogo back in 1971. It's actually Earth Day, but works in cyberspace, doesn't it? And even Richard Feynman, so the physicist, first principle, you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. So how do we prevent that? Well, using a military term, have someone check your six. Find someone like Ian or Aaron or Jack and just say, hey, am I sane? Now, if they're smart, they'll come back and say, well, no, Ron, we already know you're not, but that's beside the point. Okay, is my thinking okay? Find someone to double check you, worth their weight in gold. Same thing when I'm working with students, find someone to edit for you because we're gonna miss our own errors all the time. All right, so this, bringing this up as a professional tip, not so much with Unfluence. This is how we lose people more than anything. I was part of a small business seminar earlier this week, and there was a super smart lady, PhD, who was talking over all of the small businesses' heads. I mean, bless her heart. But she was, again, talking about SIMs and IDS and CMMC and NIST and their SPs. And so this came from one of my students. He realized as he was trying to explain cybersecurity to people, when I explain the basics, I have this habit of looking at basics as basic and lose the fact that basic is complicated for others. So think about that. Know your audience, as Aaron put earlier, how we can talk about people's heads. One of the common problems with this Unfluence, though, people tend to be somewhat naive, gullible. We have to trust each other to survive as a society. We don't always think that, should I double check it? Are they going to be mad at me if I confirm what they're saying? Why don't you believe me? Don't you know who I am? I love it when students double check me. I expect them to. Because you don't know what is being posted. I swear, I heard Abe say this back in 2006. Anyone else? Right? Just because you see something on the internet with a quote, a picture, and a date, doesn't mean it's going to be true. Abraham Lincoln, 2006.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, you see? Thank you. It's not just me. We heard Abe say this. There's got to be another person by the name of Abe Lincoln. It's not necessarily the former president, but yeah, the trust but verify, right? And everything we do, double check it. Another common challenge we have is complacency. I'm a small business. I'm just an accounting firm. No one's ever going to want to hack me. And what information do you have? Well, I have all my clients' tax returns. And who are your clients? Well, they're half the town council. Oh, yeah, and I wouldn't want the town council's tax returns, would I? No. But that's the the thought process so many small businesses have. And it's just that it won't happen to me. Who would ever want to break into my stuff? Well, one of the favorite books that I have in cybersecurity, recommend you reading. It's called The Cuckoo's Egg, Clifford Stoll. So must read The Cuckoo's Egg by Clifford Stoll. Goes through how Russian hackers in East Germany were trying to get Star Wars secrets back in the 1980s. And it's all about this complacency. Where even MITRE back then was like, no one will ever. But how do hackers break things? Do they ever, so if I wanted to go after Jack, am I going to go right after him? No, he'll blame me. He'll probably blame me anyway. No, I'm going to go after Jake first, and then Alex, and then Aaron. Then I'm going to have Aaron's computer go after Jack. And then Jack's going to blame Aaron. And Aaron will be like, I didn't do anything. That's that complacency. Even if you have an open platform, it can be used as an attack vector. You don't want that, right? It's because we all suffer from this mindlessness where we tune out, where we stop thinking, we just forget what we're doing, and we just listen and we're like, F it, I'm just going to do it. Tell you what, I'm going to send you all an app on where you can learn more about this. Go ahead and accept it. It's okay. You can trust me. And that's that mindlessness. I want to play this game. Damn it. I'm going to click yes. It should see all my contacts. And then, particularly in cyber, we tend to be very busy, and IT. I don't know about the rest of you, but since this COVID stuff started, I've been busier than ever in my life. So here's where I have a problem, and I need your help. Well, many problems where I probably need many people's help, but I think I have a conflict of interest. You see, my job is to work myself out of a job knowing I never will. If I'm able to help secure my client and they don't need help in security, then they don't need my help in security and I lose a customer. Don't I have a vested interest in people staying insecure? Think about it. So how do we work ourselves out of a job is what we're trying to do. I don't know. I really hope so. I really love teaching. It's what I do, and we're always going to have students. How about this one? Is phishing, smishing, vishing, and now I just created one called wishing. Yeah, wishing. Y'all know what wishing is, right? Let me pull it up. Let's see. So to learn more about this wishing, I'm putting it in the chat. Go ahead and click on that link. And you can learn all about it. Oh, and this is the requirement for the Dilbert cartoon. Can you trust me? Ooh, that's a great question. Maybe, or maybe not. So phishing will never go away. It's too easy. It's too low cost. Quick story. My son, when he was 16, got a job at a local McDonald's. 2 weeks after he started, he got an email that said, click here to see your paycheck. Email was not from McDonald's. So he clicked here, took him to a web page, not McDonald's. It said, enter your first name, enter your last name, enter your social security number, and hit submit. So what did my son do? He did the right thing. He asked me. Yes, my son's a construction kid, big football player type, not a geek like his old man. He took a time out and he asked, Dad, can you check this out? It seems fishy. Pun intended. That email, long story short, or if you're a Paul Harvey fan, old. And now for the rest of the story. Was that legit? Yes, it was the local human resources company, and that's how they get paychecks out to McDonald's employees. Also why we will always have our jobs. Anyway, who clicked on that link? Should I go ahead and go to it? Pwned!
Ah.
Exactly. Yes, my son has learned enough from me, and my daughter as well. People will always want to click on links. I'll show you why here in just a little bit. It's actually part of my slides as well. But phishing, this is all part of Unfluence, right? We don't listen or RTFM. Can someone put in chat what RTFM is? And there's two answers that could be correct. One can be the red team field manual. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Exactly. Thank you, Ian. People don't. We get in a hurry. We see lots of words, and it's how fast can I click through? Or in InfoSec, we tend not to get any respect. So many are still in that security figurehead position. So how many of you read this book, Practical Unix, grabbing it off my shelf, Practical Unix and Internet Security? It's really thick, so you know it's got to be really good. Did I mention veterans get access to the O'Reilly libraries for free? Woohoo. Written in the 1990s. And in it is something known as Spaff's Law from Dr. Eugene Spafford out of Purdue. If you have responsibility for security, but you don't have the authority to enforce it, you're just there to take the blame when something goes wrong. I love saying that quote and then reminding people from mid-90s, and they're like, it still is true today. I'm in that position. How many of you have been in that security position? I've been there a couple of times where I was pretty convinced I'm the token security guy sitting over there, and as soon as there's a breach, I won't have a job. So how do we use this to help us? Yeah. We're all trying to escape this insanity, and for all the people who are trying to break in, I'm going, why? Anyway, it's a fun career field. We have awesome people, just sometimes a little frustrating. Let's dive into a little bit more of social engineering, though. And thank you for sharing the source on how to get the O'Reilly within the chat. Really appreciate that. Social engineering is just too much fun, the art of human hacking, our desire to be helpful. How do I break into a building? Pretty easy. Well, I find what they're wearing, pretext. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. I carry a bunch of boxes. I have a fake work order, and I get someone to open the door for me. I may even have a fake badge. Badges aren't hard. You know, oh, I'd love to badge in, but I can't. My arms are full. You find a really busy time, you know, take advantage of how people want to help and trust each other. You know, if make sure you're looking trustworthy, you know, or that fear of getting into trouble. I used this one before, you know, hey, if you don't help me right now, I'm calling your boss. No, it's okay. What can I do for you? That works. And then that mindlessness, that acting without thinking again, is all part of this social engineering. We use technology, but it's just part of our toolkit for it. Let me dive into some of my favorite techniques. And actually, I have the book here if you're looking over at my camera, Influence from Dr. Robert Cialdini. Let me talk about, this book is probably the most referenced cybersecurity book. Looks like we're being Zoom bombed. Woohoo! And can someone mute Carlos, please? I love Zoom bombing. It just adds to the entertainment value of all of this.
Do we get Zoom bombed? Are you seeing something?
Yes, Carlos Torres.
Yeah, geez. All right. All right, so we're gonna end this, generate a new link. It's gonna go up on the relative sources.
Can't you just boot them?
There is. All right, got it.
Should be able to just boot. And that's why we practice and know what to do when bad things happen. Woohoo! Thank you.
All right, he's out.
Thanks, Carlos, for providing some entertainment. Goodbye. Let's talk about some influence in psychology. Yes, it is the top referenced book, one of the top, that has nothing to do with cybersecurity. First of all, is liking. What we like people who are like ourselves. So try to be likable. There's actually, Tim Sanders wrote a book called The Likability Factor, how you can make yourself more likable, rather than going into an organization and saying you suck. So check out my previous talk at VetSecCon Junior about how to suck at cybersecurity. If you're just going in and telling people you suck. Actually, what I do is to help my likability, I'll go into a new organization 9 times out of 10, they tell me, yeah, we suck at security. And I come back and say, no, you're doing it well here. You have some room for improvement there. Find ways to catch people doing things right. So try to make yourself likable. Like Sally Field from the Oscars 100 years ago, or maybe a recent POTUS. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. No politics. Bad round. Likability. What can you do to make yourself more likable? And then here's one of my favorites. I showed this one to my son, and I need to stand up, and I'm doing this sitting. It's called the Law of the Suit Coat. Yes, you like my higher military shirt?
Yes.
Throw on a suit coat, all of a sudden my authority level just jumped up like 3 notches. So what I've learned, if I put on a suit coat, and I showed this to my son, by the way, and I got him a suit coat, and I said, always keep it handy, and if you're meeting someone important, you throw it on, even if you have a ratty shirt on, not that it's that ratty, you then have authority, showing that I'm in charge. And you can do it with an attitude as well. It's just that assertiveness as a part of what you're doing. So keep that in mind. That how can you better use your dress? Be aware of what you are wearing when you're meeting people. I actually used this once to get seats behind home plate at it was a Comesco Field in Detroit. It was like 4 years ago. I was there for a conference. Me and a buddy went to the baseball game. We got nosebleed cheap seats. And I bet him a beer by the 4th inning, I could be sitting behind home plate. And what I've learned is that being an older white guy, and if I just have the right authority and attitude, I can get away with a lot of things. Anyway, so yeah, I found open seats. And by the 4th inning, I was behind home plate just by using authority. No harm was done, and they didn't lose any money because I paid them a lot for beer that night. Reciprocation. Why do vendors like to give us toys? You know, I have all these toys sitting at my desk. When we go to a conference, they give us toys. Why? It's this exact reason. If I do something for you, you feel indebted to do something for me. Do we have any other Big Bang Theory fans out there? There was an episode, a Christmas episode a few years ago, where Sheldon was just panicked because Penny got him a Christmas present, and he had to now get her a Christmas present of at least equal value. And what does he get her? That's reciprocation. That's why people sometimes do things for us, and it's just because they want something potentially back from us. So just be aware, that's another Unfluence technique. How about this one? Social proof. So how many people do we have in the room? I was going to see, there's 120 people in the room right now, and that will gather a bigger crowd. If you see a crowd, you tend to go and, hey, what's everyone looking at? If everyone begins to look up, now everyone's looking up. That's social proof. Why we see on Yelp the number of stars and how you can fabricate that potentially. 4 out of 5 dentists say. Another is Scarcity Act. Now, we'll see this on, if you like this, because people don't want to miss out. 2 types, time-related and quantity-related, we see often when we're purchasing products. Amazon, Prime Day, and Walmart and Best Buy all had theirs within the last week. Anyone get any good deals? The time-related is, the sale is ending, and they even have that clock, that ticker of when that sale is ending. That's time-related, and you're like, ooh, I better get it now. I don't want to miss out. But you don't need that. Doesn't make a difference. Well, it looks like we may have another Zoom bomber trying to get in. So.
Yeah, I just enabled the waiting room, so I
just
asked who he is, but just feel free to keep going.
Yeah. No. I actually find it rather humorous because they are now blatantly obvious as to who they are. So.
Yeah, it's the humanity track pulls all these in. We're the ones that have had it happen. It's fascinating. Anyways, sorry. Please keep going. This is very interesting.
No. It's great on how to notice this and how to pay attention. With what's happening around us. It's that mindlessness. Oh, and having someone to check your sex. Did I say how important that is? So quantity related, we only have 5 left of these in stock. Buy now. That's scarcity. And it's all part of that power of pricing as well. Last one is the commitment and consistency. Why you need people to sign things. Are you agreeing that you are accepting this risk? You want me to sign that I'm accepting? Yeah, it's your risk. Do you own it? Well, your security, no, your business. Are you committed to fixing this? Once people sign something, they are committed to it and they'll be consistent with their behavior, which can be very powerful. Why we want people to formally sign a document, even if it's not legally binding, because when they do, they're more willing to do it. Yep, the end user license agreement, exactly. It's a legal document, but it's also hopefully to encourage the right behavior. But the petitions, right now, we see quite a bit, getting people to sign. And as soon as people sign a position for or against a platform, they are a lot more likely not only to vote for it, but share it with their friends as well. And that gets back to how the Russians did it. If you remember that the multiplication factor, they would get a whole bunch of people within the US then to sign up and agree, and then they would publicize whatever they're going after, whether it's politics or pineapple on pizza. Lots of P's today. Again, I like to use humor. Let me go into a few more Unfluence techniques though. One is pretexting, framing, and elicitation. And I do have a reference at the end. It's for Chris Hadnagy's books, Social Engineer, The Art of Human Hacking, and then his second book on the science of human hacking. First of all, what is pretexting? Well, it's creating a scenario, creating a whole persona. As I mentioned, creating this whole sock puppet type of an account. I don't feel like switching shirts, so I'm just going to show you. I'll put this shirt on as I'm going into social engineer an organization, go, hi, I'm Ron Wilson with Wilson Security. I'm here to perform a security audit. I got called in by Sally Smith, your chief finance officer, to perform a surprise audit. You need this for high trust certification. What? Yeah, Sally said I need to come in and I better come in right now. I'm tasked to do this and to do that this week. Well, Sally's on vacation this week. Yes, I know Sally's on vacation this week. I want to come in and perform my audit. She said I should. Here's a document showing that she agrees to do this. Of course, I totally just social engineer my way in. Oh, and how do you know that I'm actually Ron Wilson with Wilson Security? Because it has security on the back. I'll show you some of the other tools that I use, but that's the idea of pretexting. Creating a whole fake way of being, maybe with social media as well. I'll create a business card. So homework right now. Go out to the OSINT framework. I can bring it up real quick. If you have not played with the OSINT framework, do so right now. Seriously. Time out. You can pause this if you're watching the recording, or if you're just listening, go out to it. You can, if you don't trust the link, go find it yourself. This is a really outstanding tool that combines how to find people. If I have a person's username, I can use the username search, or if I want to find someone's email address. Email addresses are like pitifully easy to find. And I'll use that as part of a pretext. I'll create an email address, oh, by the way, as a part of it. Oh, domain names, IP addresses, social media, dating scams. See if your target is on a dating site and try to connect with them there. So I'm curious, how many of you who are live here have used the OSINT framework? Put something in the chat if you could. I take a quick sip of water.
I've never seen this. I've never seen this before, but it's pretty fascinating.
Yes. Oh, so I've just ruined your day and weekend,
Oh
because now
yeah.
you're going to be spending the rest of the weekend going through this. It's an Alice in Wonderland website, because it's like, oh, cool. You know, I can do passive DNS, and then you just begin going through it, and then you're doing this people search, and yeah. And then 14 hours later, you're like, damn, I haven't eaten yet. But this is so cool. You know, so play around with the ASIN framework. Other tools, like you saw my Wilson Security. Oh, how much did I pay for this shirt? Oh, by the way, $3 at Goodwill. I happened to be there with my daughter going through the rack, and I saw this shirt, and I'm like, yes, I've got to have it. There, so I'm security. Having a checklist, you know, I'll have official looking books. I'll have my official checklists from NIST. Yeah, say, oh, here's what I have to go through. Makes me official. And then business cards. Who was mentioning? Someone in an earlier session, you have business cards. Have you ever done this? Created a fake business card? I did this at a conference here in Omaha like 10 years ago, just because I'm incredibly obnoxious. It was a 2-day tech conference. At the end of the first day, went home and I scanned in my badge. And I changed my name to Bill Gates. I changed my company to Microsoft. I created Bill Gates Microsoft business cards. And the second day at the conference, I was Bill Gates. The vendors kept giving me weird looks for some reason. This is when I wore glasses too. And I would give the vendors my Bill Gates business card. The conference organizer was rather ticked at me. So much so that the following year he asked if I would run the security track. Go figure. Fake business cards. So how do you know? Is a business card an authenticator? Not really, no. Stay out of trouble. Normal caveat. Don't pretext unless you have your get out of jail free card. Just ask the 2 coal fire employees who were in Iowa. They went after a county building, and the sheriff didn't know that it was a sanctioned penetration test, social engineering attack, and he jailed these 2 poor guys from Florida who worked for coal fire, even though they had their get out of jail free card, but they were pretexting. So pretexting is illegal. With great power comes great responsibility. What movie is that from? With great power comes great responsibility. Put that
Spider-Man.
Exactly. Thank you. Framing. How do we put things, and this is where, when you're listening to political ads for the next few weeks, listen to how things are framed, because you can change people's perspective just on how you say something. For example, rather than asking, are you feeling okay? You put it, you're not feeling well, are you? And then, you know, you feel compelled to say, you're right, I'm not, even though you could be feeling great. That's how you can frame questions. We see this in advertising all the time. This is also a PG-13 slide. Look at the Heineken bottles. Now turn upside down and tell me what you see. Yeah, legs. What does Axe sell? Sex. You can see that right on their can. Amazon with the smile, FedEx with the arrow, done all the time in advertising. When we're trying to frame, and this gets back to that likability, we can frame how people perceive us. This comes from another really good social engineering book, highly recommended. Just keep in mind, it is dated. There are some biased overtones associated with it, but the ideas behind it are solid forever. You become interested in other people. Yeah, you take off the white hat and you put on your black hat, and it's a great social engineering book. You find a way to connect with the people, find something in common, and you strike that conversation. Relax, smile, let them talk. Using other people's names. If you noticed, I do it even in my presentations, where I use people's names. Like, hey, good Aaron, I'm glad you mentioned about how to win friends and influence and manipulate people. I love how you changed that, by the way. but people's names are like music to them. So use it. Listen, pay attention, talk as they would talk, not how you would talk. How many of you are on Twitch and TikTok and Insta? Now, all of you in security are like going, oh, TikTok, that's owned by the Chinese. No, stay away. And I'm like, that's where the younger generation is hanging out now, whether we like it or not. So understand where people are. It's so much easier to bring them to where you want to be if you find where they are. That's the idea, talking in terms of other people's interests. Go where they are. And then making them feel important. Ego. Boosting ego works so well. Like let's give Jack thumbs up, by the way, for taking care of the room and keeping it clean. So thank you, Jack, for helping me out. So you see?
Wow, I feel better. Nice.
Exactly. It really does work, believe it or not. Building rapport. And we use this for what's known as elicitation. You start out by just creating this connection, that ego. We want to be polite. We want to be nice. Okay, so I'm in Nebraska. Everyone in Nebraska is nice. Literally, that's our slogan, Nebraska nice. And I grew up in New Jersey, lived throughout the country, and Nebraskans do tend to be really nice, which means it's sometimes easier to social engineer them because they really all want to be very polite. I love it here, but can you take advantage of that? We're, please, will you help me? We'll talk about, there's another technique. Well, okay, I'll bring it up now. I don't know if we have any females in the room, but females have a distinct advantage with rapport building because guys are stupid. If a female, can you help me? Does one of those, we're like, sure. So females, there's empirical science. Females are known to be better social engineers. And I say just because guys are stupid. And I can say that because I'm a guy. Being praised, as I work with Jack, and trustworthiness. So as I already mentioned, find that mutual interest, flattery, volunteer. If I tell you a secret, will you tell me something? Will you do me a favor though? I didn't just say that, did I? The quid pro quo. The instinct to complain. Oh my gosh, I can't believe all of the Zoom bombing. This thing sucks. And then someone else is going to want to chime in. And we've just bonded. Find something to complain. We see this all the time with politics, right? Have you ever done this? To get someone to correct you, but then they feel superior to you, and you can take advantage of it. What's a good erroneous statement? Well, 42% of statistics are made up. No, Ron, it's 48%. You're right. Oh, thank you so much. I just pwned you. Naive, taking advantage of that. Using silence works really well. Silence is very awkward. You're like, did Ron freeze? No. When there's silence, people feel the need to speak. So rather than you speaking, just use silence. And they very well may start blabbing. And then alcohol. Quick story. I teach a social engineering class at the university where I work. And I have an assignment where the students need to find a stranger, build rapport, see if they can't borrow the stranger's cell phone to make a phone call. So it was one of my students at a naval base in Greece who was trying this. And he went to a drinking establishment off base. He found a sailor and, hey, just met him and bought him drinks. And before long, he not only got the sailor's phone, hey, can I borrow your phone to make a phone call? I got to call my daughter, and my phone, I left it, in my barracks. I really promised I'd call my daughter. Oh yeah, here, sure. Let me unlock it for you. Alcohol works great, but not only did my student get the sailor's phone, but pretty much all of what's happening with the Navy on that base. what ship he's on, what the other ships are doing. Yeah, talk about OPSEC or lack thereof. Yeah, fortunately, my student, one of the really good guys, high security clearances, and he's just like, his report was just fascinating to read because it's like, OMG, this was too easy. Yeah. A few more. Embedded commands. That's what we'll see often with the elections, that act now type of idea. Couple of short words. You're going to help me with this, won't you? That won't you, where I kind of emphasize it. No, I'm doing it so you can understand and hear it. But hiding it within, you don't have anything better to do this weekend, right? Here's one. You can play along at home. Do not imagine a purple cow. No, no, no. Stop, stop, stop. No imagining a purple cow. That's exactly it. And that's what we're seeing in news today. All the time. This is what foreign agents are trying to do to us, where they embed certain things to get us to maybe respond or react, taking advantage of this whole purple cow idea. So how many of you thought of a purple cow? How do we work through all of this? How do we defeat Unfluence? It's really through this power of observation, using our ears instead of our mouth, watching, observing. How are people reacting? Analyzing, looking at that news article and seeing how it was written to manipulate our thinking. And I see this on both sides. This is why I'm a former Intel officer. I'm so glad that has helped me so much. I try to use many different news sources because so many of them are biased and they don't even understand their bias. Seriously, read, if you have any good examples. Yeah, easy way to remember something, just try to forget it. Exactly, Alex. Yeah, there's so many examples. Pull up any news article today about a politician. Look through it and see how, all the different sentences on how they are manipulating what we think. And again, it's both sides. I'm not blaming Republicans or Democrats. Everyone's guilty of it. But that's why we need smart consumers that trust but verify, don't believe everything you see. So how do we prevent Unfluence? First of all, CYA. CYA is another TLA. Oh, no, no, it's not that CYA, although you definitely will want to do that as well as a part of this, check your assets. No, check your assumptions, cover your assets. Yeah, cover your assets. No, check your assumptions. When we assume things, we are mindless and we tend to be a lot more susceptible to social engineering. So ask questions. You will notice when I'm participating in these types of sessions, these conferences, I'll often ask questions I already have an answer to, but I want to hear what the presenter has to say to validate what I'm thinking, what I'm knowing. So ask a lot of questions. Questions are really good. Thank you. Just about done. Universal participation, what that means is you need everybody participate. So there's two reasons why we do security awareness training in an organization. One, main reason for security awareness training, compliance. Check the box, we did our annual security training. The other reason is to encourage the right behavior. And that's the idea here with universal participation. But we need that continual training and awareness. Asking for help, like my son. So I've talked with Department of Homeland Security and the FBI. And we have the easiest way to prevent social engineering. Ask, hey, Jack, I just got an email from the IRS saying I owe $3,000 but I need to pay them in a Walgreens Green Dot card, or Bitcoin. I didn't know our IRS was taking Bitcoin, but they said I'm going to be going to jail.
Yeah, seems legit, right?
How many people are falling for those, though? It happens quite a bit. So just time out, ask someone else. Seriously, this is what I convinced my 88-year-old mom to do. You don't even need to ask someone who's extremely knowledgeable. It's like brakes in a car. Why do we have brakes in a car? Most people will say to stop and to go fast. It's just slowing down during times of high risk so you can keep going fast. That's why we have brakes. If you see something, say something. If you see someone trying to Zoom bomb the room, you just say something about it. And it's just, we take care of it. Putting sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? Do this all. How many of you have ever noticed a vulnerability on a website within the last week? And it's just by stumbling around. It's what we do as security people, right? Yeah. If you see it, let the website administrators know. What tips do you have? And we do have the ability to, if you go on to the participants, you can raise your hand, or I don't know what's been turned off or on, but if you have other tips, put your tips in the chat, please. Last point on this, ask who owns the headache. Okay. Who owns the problem? So often we'll take them on ourselves. If you heard Chloe's presentation keynote yesterday, we own so many problems in cybersecurity. Do we really though? Can we do anything about it? Find out who the owner of that headache is, and then use these techniques, as Aaron pointed out earlier, tell stories to sell what we're trying to do. Show them, give them a positive way of understanding the problem and then helping them to determine the right solution. But ask, who owns the headache? Some homework resources for you. I've always enjoyed social-engineer.org. That's Chris Hadnagy's website. You can find his books there. They're the top books on social engineering. I mentioned about Robert Cialdini's Principles of Influence. Business Balls has always been a favorite of mine, just as a website to learn more about these human aspects. A lot of people don't ever know about that. And then more homework. Oh, I forgot to warn you. I'm a professor. I give homework. Y'all got homework. If you have not watched Johnny Long's DEF CON 15 No Tech Hacking, go watch it. Johnny Long's a rock star. I love him. I've never actually met him. I'd love to meet him. Hackers for Charity. He was a Christian missionary to Uganda. The Uganda military wanted to kick him out, but the president said, no, he's our tech support. True story. He was paid to be a Christian missionary by the cybersecurity community. His whole talk, even though he wrote the book on Google hacking and tell you all about Google dorks, about how we can use this Unfluence. By sitting in an airport, you can find out about people. Last story. I was flying to Washington, D.C. Actually, I was U.S. Cyber Patriot, the Air Force Association cybersecurity competition for high school students. I was accepting the award for Mentor of the Year in 2014. So this was 6 years ago. They flew me to Washington, D.C. So I was flying Southwest through Chicago. And this is if you have questions, post them in the chat while I'm telling the story. Flying Southwest, I hop on the connecting flight and I get on the flight really early. Hispanic lady sitting on the aisle of row 2. Excuse me, ma'am, may I sit by the window? Because it's open seating. No, of course. I noticed she broke her arm. Oh, you broke your arm. I always like to see who I can social engineer. Broke your arm? How'd you do that? Oh, I just fell. And I could tell she didn't really want to talk, so I didn't press it. A little while later, the drunk guy of the plane gets on, and he sits in between us. I had way too many at the airport bar. I'm hiding, reading my book. He notices she's reading a law journal on her Kindle and proceeds to tell her everything he knows about the law. Nothing. She was very gracious, though. Very kind, just kind of knew how to keep him from being too stupid. Okay, so we land at Dulles in DC. She gets off, the drunk guy gets off. The stewardess then asked, did you know who the Hispanic lady was? No, didn't recognize her. Paul Harvey, and now for the rest of the story. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. So yes, I've tried social engineering a Supreme Court justice. Thank God I failed. And the drunk guy just, took it all away because at least I did not try to teach law to a Columbia law professor. Yeah, no. My question is this, though, to you. What question could I have posed to her to build rapport? So my son is interested in the law, and this is the question I'd ask her, because she was coming back from Oklahoma State where she delivered the graduation address. I would just ask her, what advice would you give young people who are interested in the law? Very safe question. She could answer it. And even if I was a journalist, posted it on the New York Times, it's innocuous. And she's smart. She knows how to answer questions like that. So again, regardless of politics, she was very gracious. What questions do you have for me? And technically I went 2 minutes over, but
Yeah, no issue. If anyone has questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we
I didn't
will.
really see too many as the chat was rolling, but I didn't have my glasses on. So hopefully
Uh,
you found a few nuggets through all of this. That's my point in doing this, inject some humor in a Saturday.
yeah, there's been a lot of anecdotes agreeing with what you said. All right, Ian Murphy. Why is social engineering not taken seriously in cybersecurity teams?
It'll never happen to us. Or we think cyber, it's all a technology issue, and we forget. If you talk to Bruce Schneier, who's the cryptographer, Marcus Random, who developed one of the first network firewalls, I mean, all of these old time folks, techies, they all come to the same epiphany. It's all about the people. But we think it's all about technology and that technology will save us. And it's too easy. We've been doing social engineering since humans exist. It's always going to be that back door in. So that's why I think it's often not until people realize that, hey, it could happen to me. And just simple steps. If we keep information security simple, yes, then people will be more willing to listen to us. Do I see any use of deep fake or voice faking technology? Yes. And I wish I had more time, Brian, to get into that. That can be its own talk. Who is it? Alyssa Miller, well-known in the security space, gave a talk earlier this year. She created her own deep fakes. So yes, that will be a threat vector. We'll be watching a video. Someone may have a video that looks just like Ron, saying things that I wouldn't say, but they can make it look and sound just like me to influence. That's where, so how do we defeat deep fakes? Trust but verify. Ask questions. Hey, that something just seems off, because there always will be something that will trigger. Someone mentioned Spider-Man earlier. Trust your spidey senses. We have most of us with military background and in cybersecurity, we have this innate sense if something does not feel right. Trust it, act upon it, ask about it. So great question. I love it. If you have more resources, please. So on that. Any other questions that I missed?
All right. Well, in that case, Ron, thank you so much for presenting, and also thank you for being an active member of the community.
My pleasure.
I keep saying it, but it's the reason we're doing this is to get everyone together. So it's great to see everyone participate. And
Yes. Thank you.
and obviously you're a busy guy, so it's thank you for taking your Saturday.